And I wish to make a formal motion now to the Senate. On behalf of the Academic Affairs Committee, I move that the Faculty Senate recommends the following programs to the Provost for approval. Arts in Healthcare minor, Fashion Business minor, Stage Combat minor, Makeup Artistry and Design, and a BA in Visual Design Studies. End of my motion.
Do I hear a second to the motion?
Second.
Oh, Charles. It's moved and seconded that the Senate recommends
Those five
proposals.
programs.
Is there any discussion about those specific proposals?
I want to thank the Academic Affairs Committee. They work.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? There's one abstention. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Thank you, Pam. And I hope it will be equally productive today for all of us, guests and senators, to have the chance to ask each other questions about how we might continue to build a larger culture of communication and transparency. So whatever else we accomplish, I do hope we're setting a precedent for just this type of communication and conversation in the future. And to begin the conversation, I'd like to turn it over to...
There's a lot of conversations going on. This is a complex, and as I would say, good education is messy, but it's necessary to have points of view and to express and to understand what we're trying to do, and as much as possible. So we're here today to dialogue with you and to try to understand what we're trying to do and what questions you may have. I'd like to turn over to Louise, who will speak next, and I think respond to the correspondence.
Let's take first the idea of possibly splitting the School of Fine and Performing Arts into two schools. The case with the idea of bringing AMM to the School of Media Arts and the possibility of the Marketing Communication AMM joining forces.
This makes is that the prioritization process, both the dean's recommendation and the president's recommendation, the dean's observations and the president's recommendation, ranked the marketing communication department very high and in the highest category. If you remember, there was the first bin, which is increased resources, and the fourth bin was get rid of this program, and we were in number one, increased resources in all of our programs. So you can imagine our surprise when we read that the marketing communication wouldn't exist anymore. Now, this is a semantic discussion that Robin and I have had. I think Robin may insist that the marketing communication will continue to exist. And I'm making the point that, well, if you don't have a marketing communication department anymore, then it doesn't exist. And I think that's it's an honest semantic difference we can talk about. But the structural changes that are being recommended, and that's on the flip side of this, the letter. The forming a new department dedicated to arts management, entrepreneurship, and marketing. Out of two departments previously, marketing, that taught marketing, advertising, public relations, and arts management. The idea of eliminating those two departments and creating a new entity dedicated to arts management, entrepreneurship, and marketing, to me, that's a structural recommendation that is meta-curriculum and ought to come before some venue here at the college with the provost at its apex, or the president, but a process that involves faculty and the other stations along the way before it's presented to a department and then they're asked to implement it. I don't know what form that would take. I don't know whether it would just get in the queue of curriculum changes, but when I talk about marketing communication department, and I've been associated with it for 22 years, call me a fogey if you want to, but when I talk about that department, I realize we're talking about a substantial magnet for enrollment at Columbia College. We're talking about a department that's in competition successfully with DePaul and other institutions. We're talking about a department that's been deprived of resources, as the prioritization makes clear, for quite a while, and suffering other problems. And before we mess with a good thing, what I'm suggesting is that we need to do a lot of due diligence and not just bring it to the department and ask them to figure out how to implement it. And now that's the challenge I see for us is, first of all, to respect the prioritization process when it recommends more money and more resources to a successful department. And secondly, setting up some kind of a venue, some kind of a system so that it's not left to individuals or individual offices to make a policy decision that's so ultimately so radical in the original sense of that word.
And I think that's the faculty will be consulted. And I do hope, about the prioritization and where the resources go, I do think that the spotlight that's being shown on Mark.
An interpretation that to increase resources to a department and to ask them to work more closely with another department are mutually opposed, when one might actually be a solution to the other. I mean, you just have to think those are like apples and orangutans. Increasing resources is increasing resources. Asking people to work more closely together administratively might actually make it more possible to increase resources. So just let's think of those as separate things and not conflate them.
I think it's the fact that this has been characterized, I believe, as a fact-finding phase. I think what you just described is very appropriate for a fact-finding phase. It's something to look at.
Okay,
I mean, that's, the idea that the department is, I mean, if we interpret interdisciplinarity as meaning integration of departments, then we're all in trouble, because we want more interdisciplinarity, but that doesn't mean merging departments into a new entity, right?
One thing in the meeting that we had on October 8th, where the chairs and the deans met just to talk about whether this discussion should go forward, one of the things that sort of sparked right away was the idea that there are resources in each department that the others could use that they weren't even aware of, and a kind of excitement about, of course, to say nothing of the faculty synergies that happen, but actual other kinds of resources, a database in one, actual physical, tangible resources that could be shared was something that's quite exciting to the people in the room, and one of the reasons that, again, the decision wasn't made, but there was a decision to go forward with conversations.
There.
Just to make the point that majors and programs are what really distinguishes the college. Students come here for a major. They come here for a program. And my understanding, and I think we all understand that, is that our programs and our majors are what students really are attracted to. It's not necessarily a department. It is what is the academic expertise and knowledge that we can give these students. What is that BA about? What is that BFA about? They don't care where it's really held. They just want to know that it's substantive, it's meaningful, and we want to go there because we want that bachelor's degree, we want that BFA, we want that graduate degree. And that's what we are really here promoting and need to make sure is the best that it can be to distinguish ourselves from our competition. It's the degrees and it's the programs. And in all of this, the understanding that has been really, and I say I think more will agree with me, has been said there will be no change in the current programs of either the department, because those programs are exactly very strong. And if anything, working together was meant to make sure we can strengthen those programs and come up with imaginative, new ideas in which we could even have more programs to distinguish us from the competition, and so students do come here and don't come to the
out of the year that we went through last year. We learned nothing else. We did learn that administratively, despite the amazing programs we offer, we don't do things in the ways that make the most sense or the best use of our talents and the best use of our resources. And that it is certainly worth exploring ways to do that better for our students, not.
I've heard some very encouraging things this afternoon. Some of the most encouraging things is that these are discussions. These are not fait accompli.
But there are no decisions being made. We are soliciting information about ideas that people have. We're listening to conversations. We want input. We're asking the deans and the chairs to give us input, to prove that they've had conversations with their faculty about what is on the table, what are the ideas. And we're asking them to show us that that is happening. We take those and say, okay, what would be the next steps? What do we have consensus? Who needs to do what? How is this going to work? How does this benefit students? How does it benefit the faculty? What happens to faculty in this? What resources are needed? How do we, if this is going to happen, how do we make that happen? If we can make it happen. And is there agreement? So I think all of those things are on the table for discussion. There are no decisions. I don't have a sheet of paper that says, here's the point you got to end up. The point you have to end up in is what decisions are being recommended, what needs to be decided, what's being recommended from out there based upon the discussions that are being had. What ideas are there? Some of those ideas, people are coming up with new ideas to attach to them. This is a dynamic moment, you know, so we're not trying to quash the imaginations and the ideas. We're trying to allow people the room and space to have those discussions that come up with what they're going to come up. So, you know, the college, before it went through privatization process, hired people, fired people. You added people, you subtracted people. That contraction and expansion will continue to go on beyond this process. That's just the life of the entity that we live in. But it is not about that. It is to improve the quality of education. And you said in the working group, they want facts. They want substantiated facts about if we're going to make a decision about something. Give us the background. Give us the facts. How does it work? What are the implications? So it's a three-dimensional decision-making process that's going on. The discussions are shared. People are interested. The board wants to know what are people thinking. What are the facts behind those thoughts? How does it impact this? How does it impact that? And I think that's the process by which we continue to try and work in.